Hickory Creek Phase 2.
Time? Okay.
Ready to be
I got another minute, but we can go ahead.
I said.
Okay, it's 7:00. We'll start the meeting, of the Brimfield Township Zoning Commission. Roll call. Ron Jones, Tom
Here,
Johnson,
Here.
Debbie Darla,
here,
Tom Sargent,
Here.
Patrick Blair,
nope,
Seth Halen,
Here.
and Colette.
Here.
Okay. Colette will have voting rights this evening. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda?
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please.
Aye.
Agenda is accepted. Minutes. Do we have anything?
We didn't have
We didn't
it.
do minutes.
I didn't see anything in
No.
email either.
Yeah.
I was checking.
Hold off on the minutes for October.
No, we
Okay.
didn't have any.
In that case, what is first on the agenda, Mike?
So on the back of the sheet, there's first thing is discussion, text amendment change, accessory buildings under 200 square foot eliminated, along with a discussion for text amendment change, the above ground pool fence height, and we were adding the wall of the pool. So last evening, we had this at regional planning and it did pass. The one under 200 square foot is eliminated. It just has to go into the rear of the yard, not on the side. If it's a 200 square foot or less, it's only the rear. There was no changes with, adding 5 foot or anything. There was no distance. It's just you're allowed to put it in your backyard.
So that's out then.
So this one, along with the one with the pool height, the pool, the wall of the pool can be considered the fence. So if you have a 4 foot high pool, you won't need to add an additional fence. It all depends on the pool height. Now, in some circumstances, people put a 4 foot high pool, but then their embankment comes up to it and it makes it less than 4 foot. In those circumstances, they're gonna need to put the fence, but that eliminates some of our confusion as people are coming in and
Okay.
doing that, and helps us out. But for those two discussions and amendments, since they went to regional planning, you guys are gonna have to set a public hearing today for the next meeting at, if you wanna do 6:45.
Yes,
Sounds good.
Yeah,
on December 8th at 6:45.
Yes, December 8th. Then I'll need a motion on that.
I'll make a motion for amendment 1 on the building and structures and dimensions and setbacks, and also the pool amendment 2 on swimming pools, move for public hearing on December 8th at 6:45.
Second, please.
I'll second it.
what?
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So December the 8th, 6:45, is the special meeting for the pool height, fence light height, and the storage building setback.
Next thing we would have is the temporary use permit text change. With that, I asked Todd Peets to come. And he's got several other communities, which you have in front of you. We printed out. Everybody should have copies of all the various, whether it's food truck or temporary vendors or from other communities around. Todd, I'll let you go.
Yeah, so the last meeting, you asked me to do that too. When I did that, I looked in the county, and there really isn't too much in the county about these temporary food truck kind of things, or temporary use permits. So what I did was I decided to expand the search and not to do just townships in Ohio or townships in Portage, but also did cities in Ohio as well. And it's kind of across the board when it comes to the food trucks. And so when you're talking about temporary use for I'm gonna build my house, I want a temporary use to live in a trailer while my house is being built. Most communities have the 6 months especially if your house was destroyed in a fire or something like that. Or or like there's temporary construction trailers that are out there. Those are the kind of temporary uses that you see. But this food truck stuff, there isn't a lot out there on like the length of time. So what I did find was multiple cities in Ohio that have restrictions on how long you can stay or how many times a year you can be a temporary food truck. And so I have found one community that had 1 year as the longest, and I had them as short as five special events as the shortest. Like Worcester had 30 days for the entire year, and the community just had once a month basically. So I guess the point of all that is what I'm saying to you is it really varies by community, and I don't think there's really a set standard. So it's really going to be up to you guys to decide what you want to do as far as the length of time goes. Now, what a lot of those communities did do, and I gave links to Mike and he made copies for you guys, is there's a lot of standards there that I think a lot of communities use. Some of them are very similar and some are very different. And so I think if you craft some good standards anyway, based on all the information I compiled, but the timing is really going to be up to you guys, what you guys think is appropriate amount of time. So that really doesn't narrow it down for me.
Yeah. What I did was I did the same thing you did, Todd. I went under zoning. I found very little. So then, being in the food preparation business myself, I said, this has got to be covered under the Department of Health. So what I did was I started searching large counties, and I did pull up the Portage County mobile food license for Portage County. And then I went over to Summit County and took a look at what Summit County has. And one of the things that really kind of confused us all was time. So under their section, mobile food operations, and I'll read the whole paragraph because I don't want to paraphrase.
Sure.
It said mobile unit is defined as a unit that is operated from a movable vehicle, portable structure, or watercraft, and that routinely changes location and does not remain in any one location for more than 40 days, consecutive days. Ohio law requires that every person who intends to prepare, serve, or sell food from a mobile vehicle portable within the administrative code AOC 3717-1. And then I went and looked at that, and that's just basically foodborne pathogens and how to keep water, what kind of water you have to have, separations and so forth, and it goes on. And it talks about that and so forth. So I looked at that and found that under Portage County. So they have a 40 days. They also define what a mobile food operation is and so forth. Then I went over to Summit County and took a look at what they had. And so they're a little bit different than they're more of a operational type format. But it does go in, again, on the licensing procedure and their packet and submitting and getting inspected and so forth. But they also here, if I can find it quickly, they said, what is a mobile food service operation? And this is out of this, I'll read the whole paragraph here. The mobile food service operation is an operation that one is operated from a movable vehicle, portable structure, or watercraft, routinely changes location, does not remain in any one location for more than, here we go, 40 days. Consecutive days. The definition was developed to address food service operations who are truly of the mobile nature, who routinely and regularly change locations. Moving a mobile unit a few feet or pulling an operation around the block and returning to the same location does not comply with the intent of the law. And if all the conditions above are not met, then the operation cannot be licensed as a mobile food service operation, must be licensed in a different food service category in order to operate. And that's the conclusion of that paragraph. And so I got these two that are local to kind of give us an idea. And that's what I was able to find.
Thank you, Tom. Do I have some input from the board members?
No, not really.
So right now, the way our permits run, just so everybody's aware, this is a 6-month permit. You take it out and you can come back and get another 6-month permit. And then it requires, before me, health department signs off on it, police department and fire department. And then mine would be a final signature once I have all the other ones. But that's how it works.
Well, what's interesting about that is they talk about the 40 days.
Why 40 days, I wonder?
Well, it's consistent in many of the health department. And that's where I found most of this information regarding the health department. It seems to be really strong in overseeing mobile food operations, as in any other food operation served to the public. There's licensing requirements, inspection requirements, and so forth. So my issue is then at that point is if we draw up anything, I think it would be in the best interest to be consistent with what the health department has in place.
I have a little more
That's
question.
up to me.
So I have a good example of why that health department thing is in the law. There's a barbecue restaurant called Old Chefski's in Aurora. They started their operation as they were mobile, but the guy basically had like the sheds that you buy on the side of the road. Well, there's one by the Dollar General. He argued that it was mobile because it was able to be moved and brought in. That's why they talk about that it's like routinely movable to where he could move it, but he would have had to basically like get a flatbed, like tow truck basically to move his building. And it doesn't really fit with the thing being mobile. That law already governs the barbecue stand. When I take them to be inspected, they have to go there. They have to bring them physically there. So they're definitely mobile. We already operate under that set of rules.
Well, let me ask you this then, how do you comply with their 45-day requirement or 40-day requirement?
I move the barbecue stand for a few hours every 40 days on like a Sunday night. I don't lie. I want it to be there all the time. I want people to like see us there so we're part of the community. I move it to comply with the law. I don't move it for any other reason.
Well, and again, if I reference the Summit County, it clearly states that
You can't
it has to
move
be
it.
truly mobile,
Right.
who regularly routinely changes, moving the mobile unit full feet or pulling the operation around the block isn't really complying with the spirit of the law.
Basically, so we're two food trailers, right?
Yeah, you have-
To comply with that law, I can't take the wooden trailer, drive around the block, bring it back, take the red trailer, drive around the block. They both have to leave. So I take them to my mom's house down in Woodstown and they sit there. That's Summit County's version of the law.
Mhm.
I'm assuming it's the same reason to make sure they're still mobile, to make sure they're actually mobile and that they're not, a shed that just sets up and is technically mobile but isn't really mobile.
When did you take your barbecue grill, the big thing?
Smoker?
Yeah, when did you take that out last?
I think we're coming up on like 40 days now, so probably been.
I don't ever remember it being moved.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm there like really late at night. I don't move it when people can see it. It's not, I want it to be there. And if that law doesn't really, like, if we don't violate the reason it's there. So I move it to fit with the law and that's it. I've been over this with the supervisor for the health department lunch. They kind of had the same argument, like, oh, we don't move. We move it just to comply with that. We can move it, but I want to sell barbecue right there on 18. That's what I want to do.
So I reached out to both of our consultant attorneys. I don't know which, obviously it doesn't matter which one we go with. But both offered certain suggestions. If you would like them, it's not up to me, it's up to the board. If the board would like one of the attorneys, whoever is free that night, to come in and discuss some options. Both of them talked about temporary use and that it cannot be a full term year. So no matter what we're doing, we're in conflict because it says temporary use. Temporary use, it becomes a permanent use if he's there all year round. So we do have to do something with it. I don't know what that answer is, but at least we could bring an attorney here to give you some advice on that as well.
Right. If we look at some of the other sections here, we have time limits here. It says food truck can only be located, now it talks about a truck, can only be located within the city limits for 30 days in a calendar year. In addition, food trucks can only be located within the city limits for 7 consecutive days. Food truck cannot be operated in gives times between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. and so forth.
So
I'm kind of confused in the sense of the spirit of the regulations. And again, if you set a boundary of regulations, there's always a way that you can
Work around them.
kind of have some wiggle room and so forth. So that's what I'm concerned about. I think we have input from health department because they seem to have covered this quite in depth. And they do have, if it's temporary, and that's what we're talking about, they have time limits and so forth set forward to indicate what temporary is. And temporary to me is not there for 3 years or not there for 1 year and move around the block for 6 hours and come back.
Yeah, that's what I don't, you know, when we issued you the permit, it was temporary, and I seem to recall you say you would be into your other building in about a year.
That was the plan.
Yeah, and 3 years later, you haven't moved to,
Well, I mean, there was kind of a big thing that happened in those 3 years. There was
Right.
the pandemic made it kind of difficult to move forward, especially when businesses were struggling so much. We also, when we made that regulation, we just specifically discussed that it was able to be removed. That because that was the plan was not like I want to get into the building. We're doing that now. I paid for drawings, but it's still like I don't know when it's going to happen for sure. I just want to operate my business in the township.
so you're telling us that you have no concrete plans on moving your business?
I have
Into the
no
other building.
plans that I can't give you a date. I'm spending a lot of money to do, to have drawings done and to get all this done. It's expected to be in the spring. But even then, I'm not trying to, I don't want to make it so I can't operate a food truck in Brimfield like I have. It's worked very well. I guess what you're going by, we said that we're trying to come to a solution to the problem. I still want to know what the actual problem is. Like temporary use, that makes sense that it's not.
Well, the problem is you're operating a food truck, okay? And we have currently temporary is a 6 month permit process. We also have investigated a little bit and drawn the conclusion that the health department talks about 45 days to be temporary. And what we found out is, you want me to reread that?
Yeah, I don't think it says temporary. I think that's mobile.
Yeah, it's just, that's mobile, that's where I'm confused. I feel like
There's two.
you're looking more at the food truck right now.
Yeah.
And I thought we needed to resolve more of the temporary use. That's more
Well,
of
that's
our
what we're
problem.
doing. We're getting guidance on what temporary use is.
But you're focusing on the food truck, so the health department has that.
Jurisdiction.
Yeah, but then we also need to look at what's being used as temporary, because if I came in with I want to sell rugs from China, and I put it on a trailer, I don't have to follow any of that health department guidelines.
No, you wouldn't, but
So then I
in
could,
this case, we're talking about specific, and then we can draw.
I think the temporary part's more the problem than the food truck part of it at this point.
Yes, I agree.
And I think that's what the attorney was leaning towards,
Yeah.
regardless whether it's food or
Because
tattoo or rug.
if you iron out the temporary permit part, then he's gonna have to comply with that.
We have a
Before
conflict
it's
with
a
what
food
is
truck.
temporary and what is permanent.
Yeah.
With what he's saying, you have to
Right.
have a timeline or some sort of, definition of time for temporary, and what temporary means.
yeah, because, we can choose not to issue any more temporary permits.
Absolutely.
So, we would like to get this second draft to you.
The other thing you want to consider too is, are you going to keep it in all zoning districts? So are temporary vendor or temporary use permits available in light industrial, heavy industrial, town center, or our rural agriculture? Because right now, it doesn't say. I think we need to eliminate, if you want to do a temporary use permit in agriculture when you can just get an agriculture exemption and have a farmer's market. That doesn't make sense. So you're better off actually specifically maybe labeling what specific districts you're going to allow temporary use permits in. And it makes sense to follow the same where your general commercial is and where things of that nature, where you're going to have general food or restaurants. It makes sense to follow the same, but that's just a suggestion.
Clyde, you had a question?
I do. you know, if you stop and look at Brimfield, you know, we're getting a new fire station, gonna spend $0 to $10 million. Okay. Then you go over to Henry Just old gas station, old Shell. It don't look too bad. Then you got the clock tower, looks beautiful. Then you got the bank, then you come back to the dog place, and they did that. Then you come down to where the barbecue is, okay? I mean, come on. I mean, how are we ever gonna get rid of Kentucky? As long as we've got it, and no, you know what I mean? You know, he's got an outhouse out there, okay? He used to keep the wood way in the back, and he used to bring it up on a little cart. Now, he puts it all up next to the road. I mean, Rootstown, if anybody checks Rootstown is 4 days. And you're going, okay? Okay, now, I guess my question is, why do we really care what Ravenna does, what, you know, Rootstown does, Suffield does, you know, I mean, what do we care what Akron does? We're going to have, you know, they're supposed to put in all that nice lighting down through there. Someday, I may not live long enough to see it. I would love to see it, but, I mean, you know, you can't, you know, you've been there for going on 4 years. You have never pulled out of there. One time you pulled out to go over to the fair and come back. Now, the health department, I got same letter to the health department, 40 days, okay? The trouble with the health department, and they don't police nothing, you know. Now, what that guy told me over there, if somebody leaves Friday evening late and comes back before Monday morning, how are they gonna know? Come on, you know. So, you know, I mean, if you're gonna do that, then why can't I buy that property next door between the pizza shop and that? And, you know, I can buy it and then start me junk car lot in there. You give me a permit for it, you give it to me for 6 months, you know, and then I can pay again and get it for again. So, I mean, here again, you know, I mean, we got the gun shop, the pizza shop, I mean, you know, the guy where Mike's at in that building, everything looks nice. But I'm sorry, where you got that, in that building that you got,
Right.
I mean, it's, you know, I mean,
The plan is to tear those down.
yeah, what?
The plan is to tear both those down. I don't like that building as much as you do. I wish you would have told me about the wood. I'm glad to move it back. That's no big deal at all. As far as the health department not policing it, that's not true. As far as me not like moving it, that's not true. I can move it every year. Specifically, like, I can move them both every year, taking to the health department. They inspect them on their property, they don't come out to me. They're both mobile. I can move the wood pile, it's no problem at all. Why you care about my business? A lot of people really like my food. I get 12,000 unique customers just that I can track every year. The township support, or the community supports me. I think that's what the whole goal is, to do what the community backs and what the community wants. Yeah. That's all.
I think nobody is arguing about your food, everybody thinks it's great.
Right.
I think it's just the fact that most of the people that have complained about it, and there are quite a few, don't like the idea that it's sitting there
Right.
just the way it is, you know, it's just,
So,
it's detracting to the town center.
okay, so if I were to move the trailers, would that help you guys at all, or,
Where are you gonna move it to?
I mean, I can move the one off the road, so it's not sitting right there, that would solve the problem.
I think it's, the reason we have a zoning code, and the zoning code, what we have in policies right now, that's what the problem is. Right now, we have it based on temporary.
I don't know.
And we feel,
Yeah, I don't know if it's specific, I don't mean to interrupt you, I don't know if it's specifically aimed at his business, I think.
no,
it's-
we're not,
Yeah,
we because it kind of,
When this started, it wasn't personal, it was, I think I was the one that said, basically, we're talking about this because you moved your trailer there, or, you set up for business there. And as a zoning commission, you have to look at things and try to be proactive, because once things start, it's pretty hard to go backwards and change things. And so the conversations took place of, I think there was a spirit of trying to accommodate you,
For sure.
because the plan was for you to go into Sully's and open a restaurant and things like that. And whereas I understand the economy sucked, the COVID hit, this, that, and everything else. But I think there's an expectation, at least for me, I'll say for me, is for you to be proactive on these things and say, hey, I don't want to wear my welcome out here. This is a temporary situation. That was the spirit it was. Wasn't really understood that it was going to go year after year after year after year. And that you would be proactive pursuing the building. And again, I know some things happen, but those are the things, that was our expectation.
There were several
And we're
times,
sitting here 3 years later, like I said at the last meeting, at the exact same spot we started.
yeah, we've talked several times about not redoing temporary permits. And that was all the whole problem, it's just, you wouldn't be there because you wouldn't have a permit.
Is that when the temporary permit was created? When we talked about it last time?
What's that?
Was that when the temporary permit was created, when we talked about it last time?
Temporary permit was created about 3 years ago, but
That was when I was here though. That was when I was.
yeah, when you applied.
So, and I thought when we had that discussion then, the whole idea was it was also to be proactive and to not try to get rid of me, but to accommodate, say someone wants to set up a tattoo shop on whatever. I still don't see why this type of business is not a good thing. Like, the community likes my business, they want me to be there.
Well, from the practical standpoint, like what Clyde was saying, what we said last month was, taxpayers pay a lot of money for taxes.
Okay.
Whether we agree with everything that happens, fire departments have to expand, police has to expand because we're growing and everything like that.
Right.
And so you spend multi-million dollars on a building, and what we said was people come in and start saying, like, if we're spending this much money on this building, then you look across the street and here's a guy just set up in a temporary location.
Right.
And that circles back to what we said was, we don't want to see 40 different temporary, places pop up.
Right. So,
Would it be better?
I think what most of us are getting at here is the 3 years, or going on for 4 years, is more than long enough for you to have moved into a permanent building, had an inside seating or whatever he was going to do, and not run a food truck on the side of the road.
right.
The majority or I won't say the majority, but an awful lot of the people that I've talked to have come to me, and they just don't. It doesn't look good for the town center.
Okay.
Everybody's
It's just a
saying,
precedence.
you spend all this time, devising a town center, and you're gonna, now we're talking about putting a lighting district in all through there, redoing the sidewalks and everything. And your truck isn't gonna go with it.
So it is about business.
What's that?
So it is about my business.
well, we had a
It's
business
about the
across the
building.
street from you as well.
Right.
So
The gyro.
the gyros, that was, I would classify that as kind of like temporary. They were there, they're gone.
Right.
They got in, did their business and moved off. And that to me, well, that's kind of temporary.
Can I get a motion, before, you make any decisions tonight, I would like to make a motion to bring, Mark Adetti or Chad Murdock, either one of them, as the consultants, to the next meeting, let them define temporary use, and also if it should be a permitted or conditional use, because if it goes in as a conditional use, then you go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals. They set hours of operation, they set standards of where your wood pile is going to be, where your, whatever that is, then it's all laid out in a drawing. This is where it is and this is where it has to stay. I think going in as a conditional use would be, and Todd and I discussed it, we think that that would be probably appropriate. And then I would have the legal team define temporary and what other suggestions he has in addition to what Todd gave you tonight on timelines and what is temporary. That way we have it from a legal thing. He could do his legal research, do case law on it, do some homework. That way we're taking the legal approach of it instead of just.
Making a decision, right?
So if I could get a motion on that.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we'll have him next meeting. You guys could hear them out, and either take your time with it or make a motion to move it to regional at the next meeting. And then come back for public hearings on whatever you guys decide.
That's December 8th.
December 8th, yeah. And I'll make sure one of the attorneys is here.
Okay.
And I'll send it out for definition and everything
Okay.
else. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, where are we at next here?
We're gonna have to make a motion to accept the amendment 1 and 2, I believe. Is that next on the agenda?
For the OR district zoning, district removal of the OR and adding the uses into the LI, amendment 1 and 2.
Right.
Okay, that goes to the trustees, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna vote to make a motion to send to the trustees if you desire to.
All right, I'll make the motion for amendment 1 that was discussed in the
6:30.
public hearing earlier this evening in regards to the accessory building, to move that to the trustees for their consideration. And
No, this would be the OR, the entire OR district.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute, am I looking at the wrong sheet here?
No, you
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
And then the second
That was
one.
the setback, I'm sorry.
So,
Let me get the correct sheet here.
that's fine.
You gave us too much paperwork.
Yeah, I got a little confused here, didn't get that to the top. All right, let me amend that. I'll make the motion to the zoning resolution text amendment for amendment 1 that we spoke about earlier at the public meeting, the section 312, the OR Office Research District, the removal of the text, make a motion to move that on to the trustees.
Second, please.
I'll second it.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Motion's carried. Okay.
One
Then
more
we'll need another one for
Yeah.
amendment 2. I'll make that motion
On swimming pools?
to, in the light industrial
Oh,
district.
You made the motion?
Yeah. I'll
so you
make-
want me to second it?
Yeah, you can.
I'll second it.
In favor?
Aye.
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 Motion's carried.
Thanks,
Okay,
Tom.
where are we at now, Mike?
So we are at,
And those are both gonna go to the trustees.
Right.
pretty well. And then set the next zoning commission meeting,
Okay,
which is December the 8th at
December
7 o'clock.
December the,
Eighth.
actually, we have a special meeting.
Yeah, that's at 6:45.
6:45. And then our
You guys
regular
said that
meeting
already.
at 7, December
We
8th
just have to do the regular meeting.
at 7.
At 7, yes. So we've taken care of the,
Public hearing, we just need a motion on the set the next zoning commission for December the 8th at 7 a.m. Or 7 p.m. 7 p.m.
I'll make the motion that the zoning commission will meet at December 7th.
December 8th.
the 8th.
December 8th at
December
7.
8th, I got it written, at 7 p.m.
Colette, you want to second it?
Yes.
What about the special meeting at 6:45?
Did we already make?
Did we do that?
Yeah, we
We
did
already
that.
did that.
Okay. Second, please.
Collected.
Okay. In favor?
Aye.
Motion's carried.
So the attorney, one of the attorneys will be here on December 8th.
Yes, I'm gonna reach out. I've got we got Chad and Mark working, doing
Alright.
different things, various things, so, trying to alternate who we use, so.
And that will be at
who's next
7.
on the list, I think it's Mark, because I was using Chad for the parks, so I think, so we're just
Right.
fixing it up a little bit.
That'll be at 7.
Okay, and we've taken care of the
7 for that
the
one.
outbuilding, the 200
Yeah.
foot
Yep,
outbuilding.
yep.
And they
We've
can
got
be
that.
right against the light, right?
So you'll be here
Yeah,
next
and then we had
month?
that set for public hearing, 6:45. For the,
For sure.
6:45 for the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to put together some draft.
You got one.
You still want to put that
Draft language together. I'll get Mark to probably call you.
Are we done?
Temporary use.
Are we gonna make a motion, right?
Yeah, you can do whatever, how they do the case law, look at all that stuff. I'll send them all. Okay.
No, they didn't officially
No,
do it
not
yet.
yet. No.
Okay, we got officially adjourned meeting.
Okay,
Make a motion to adjourn.
please.
Colette, you wanna make that?
Yeah, I motion that, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second, please. We're adjourned.
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll have it ready for your next meeting. Attorney stuff, and then we should have it. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thank you, Todd. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Seems like we're always hitting.